everyone. Today we are very honored to have Sonali with us for a little chat. Sonali is the head of digital customer experience and innovation, Asia Bancassurance at Manulife, and we prepared some questions for her so that we can tap into her insights on the insurance market. Sonali, maybe you can start off with a short introduction of yourself.
Thanks, Trisha, and thanks for having me. And so you introduced me, so it's pretty much what I do. So I look after everything and anything to do with digital customer experience on our bank assurance platform, which is a very large business for Manulife in Asia, in fact, globally. And essentially, what it means is that I work very closely with our key bank partners across Asia to make sure that insurance solutions are available to our end clients, whichever form and shape they may need it, and at whatever life stage they may need it. So that's essentially my job, to make insurance accessible to our digital customers.
Awesome. I think you answered a little bit of the first question that I wanted to ask you as well, but maybe you can share a little bit more about what does it mean to be in charge of innovation and customer experience for such a large insurance group?
Well, it means a lot of work to begin with. Innovation is really one of the last bastions is insurance. And we hear of a lot of insurtech companies, fintech companies who are trying to now collaborate and provide solutions in a fairly how do you say, nascent market so far. It's not an industry that has as evolved as, say, for example, banking. But given those constraints, the fact that insurance traditionally has been a slightly more complex solution for customers to understand, investment has been slightly more complex for customers to understand. My role as managing innovation portfolio also is to make sure that we find various different ways, whether it is collaborating with external partners, or, like I said, insurtech fintech companies, or even payment solution providers, to kind of come up with solutions that would work for customers, and it would make the journey a little bit more frictionless for them. So if in the past we had our various different ways of reaching out to the customers and explaining slightly more complex products to them, we are leaning very strongly on innovation and on digital, to make sure that these solutions are now reachable by the customers, and they understand it, and they appreciate what the solutions bring to them, and are able to and we manage to make it bite size, and they then manage to kind of DIY it themselves, and be more comfortable with the solutions that they buy.
Interesting. And of course, your title states you are also part of the Asia Bancassurance team. So how about being in charge of bank assurance? What are some of the distribution channels you guys are using for this type of products?
So in bank assurance per se, it is essentially working through the banks. So banks are the large banks are really our key partners in reaching our end customers. So traditionally, of course, insurance companies have been working with large group of agents or MFAs or advisors, so to speak, that would connect with the customers. Bank assurance essentially is primarily driving this through banks, and banks have tremendous reach in Asia. Some of our large banks, very, very large banks like DBS, TCB, etc. They really do have a countrywide clientele. So that makes for a win-win situation where we get access to the customers, and the banks get ready-made insurance solutions. So those are of course the distribution methods by which we get to our customers. My specific remit as Asia Bank Assurance is that across the region we work with bank assurance partners, and also we not just work with them to leverage their existing footprint, but also to work collaboratively to say how their own footprint can increase, right, for getting insurance to the customers. Say, for example, if in Singapore the penetration for insurance customers is, say, very low single digits, so say 10 to 11%, then how do we make sure that we work with our bank partners to make insurance more accessible to even the groups that they hadn't thought of in the past, right? So collaboratively grow the market. I guess that would be the key part where digital plays a role.
Interesting. And you know, in terms of insurance firms putting customer needs first to improve customer experience, you know, what are some of the things you feel that can be improved? You know, we always talk about improving customer experience. It's such a big theme nowadays, but what exactly does it mean? How do you think we can actually improve on that as well?
That's a good question, Trisha, and I agree that it's a very it's at it is such a large scope that it has a tendency to get lost in what does it actually mean. For me, the way I define it to myself and for our customers is really creating solutions that work for them. So I always try and keep an outside in perspective. That means if we are creating a solution, does that solution work for the customer, or are we creating it because in our own heads in some form or shape we figured out that's a good solution for the customer?
Hmm.
Clearly as an experience that will not work. So point one is to create solutions that are made for the customers and they are made by the customers. That means you have to go out, immerse, research, do a lot of understand where customers work and play, what exactly is their angst point, if they think that protection is important or if retirement is important, how what do they mean by important, right? And where in their priority do we fit? I mean, do are they struggling to pay their first mortgage? Are they struggling to bring up their children, pay for their education? And in this whole scheme of things, where can we make sure that they also pay attention to protection, retirement, and all these kind of solutions, which are always important but never urgent, right, from a customer's perspective? So the outside in view gives a very good perspective on creating solutions that are for the customer. And as soon as we do that, then the second part is the experience, right? So it has to be end to end and not siloed. So the customer starts and finishes and has full control over what they are doing.
Hmm.
So as soon as you create solutions that are outside in, experience kind of falls into place. That means it will be seamless. And if it is not, then you have to keep going back and figuring out why is the engagement not coming, or where is the friction, or where is the customer facing challenges in completing a journey. So I think both these go hand in hand. That means creating solutions for the customer, and once you've done that, making sure that you deliver that solution again from an outside in perspective. Customer understands, navigates, purchases, then re-engages, even gets claims or gives up the policies or the solutions very seamlessly and effortlessly. And that has to be uh, very conscious. It can't just happen. It has to be consciously put together.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing as well. You know, in terms of data wise, I think a lot of our audience will probably be really interested. You know, how is Manulife using data to really improve the customer journey? Is it something that is constantly being input into maybe your surveys that you mentioned? You know, asking the customers, or how exactly are you guys using data to improve customer journey?
Yeah, I guess data is the lubricant that makes everything work, right? Otherwise you're kind of shooting in the dark if you don't have data, even for simple things like who visited my landing page, or who dropped off, or who uh, who is likely to engage after I have kind of offered the first solution. I think all of these are very important data points, not to mention the back end data points like reconciling, making sure that we have all the details of the customer, making sure the policy is going to the right place, right time, etc. Right. So those are like very fundamental hygiene level data. But then there are the next set of data where we are talking about what would work next for the customers. So data overall, I know there's a lot of conversation in the industry about data, and not just insurance, but other industries as well. I think data has to be looked at as not data for the sake of data, but really how is it an enabler to again offer the next best solution to the customer, the anticipate customer needs, on be very on be very proactive in terms of if I can use simpler terms, right? Be very proactive in terms of anticipating what the customer would want next.
Mm.
And of course, we are way past that point of personalizing and making sure that customer gets where they get it and how they want it, etc. So all that is enabled by data. So if there is no robust uh, data management or decision management within the organization, anything and everything to do with digital becomes, and innovation becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
So data is really the foundation on which a lot of this is put together. And in bank assurance, it becomes more so challenging and more so engaging, because you also have the partner's data to contend with. So there are two sets of data that you're trying to kind of collaborate on and make sure it comes together. So data cannot be underestimated at all. So in most of what we do, we make sure that our what we call the data repository is clear. People know what are we asking for. If we don't have it, if you're going out and getting it, or if you're requesting it from the customers, all of that is teed up. Data security is paramount for us. We have to make sure that once we collect it, we secure it. And then, of course, the usage of it as the customer life stage progresses, and how we manage to bring it out and then use it for the customer's benefit is very important.
Interesting. And in terms of insurtechs, when we talk about our insurance ecosystem, right, there's always, the insurers, the incumbents, and there's also the other part where it's the insurtechs portion. Is Manulife, yourself, are you guys partnering with any insurtechs? If yes, how does the relationship work? And if not, will you in the future think about, partnering with some of the insurtechs in our industry as well?
Yeah, sure. My role is innovation, right? And we do have a fund where we try and leverage the fund to structuredly to engage with any interesting proposition that might come through. I think what we call the traditional insurers versus insurtech, the lines are very, very blurred now, right? So the traditional insurers like Manulife, we ourselves are going and trying to do things differently. Now we can do it two ways. One is we do it from scratch ourselves, or if we find an interesting proposition that would make our delivery cycle shorter, or a solution that we may not have thought of but very difficult for us to execute, and there is a subject expertise outside, we would definitely want to leverage that. And I can say that for Manulife, we have a very structured way of engaging such partners and bringing them in. The challenge, though, is that, and this is just me personally speaking, is that we do need to find some depth in these solutions. So more often than not, we realize that the headache of integration is not worth the solution eventually, right? So the solution really has to be quite deep, and it has to solve a real problem, and it has to go multiple levels inside, right? So it can't just be like a base level solution, and after that is all customized by us. So that kind of defeats the purpose. So, and we do always have that constant challenge of technology integration, of security integration, regulatory approvals, etc. So all that trouble has to be worth it for us to bring in a solution, right? So which means that the solution has to be very robust, has to be future proof. Now somebody may say that that's really asking for too much, but if that's not possible, then it's very difficult to actually justify why we are going on that path.
Okay, thanks for sharing as well. And last question, I really just want to tap into what you think. How do you see the insurtech industry developing in the next 5 years in Asia, and how will it differentiate from the rest of the world?
I think I'm always, not because I'm sitting here, but I'm always very excited about Asia. The rate of growth, the complexity of various. I mean, Manulife works in 11 different markets here, so the difference between each market and how each market would have its own level of zing and excitement and challenges. I think Asia offers that as no other continent does, clearly. Uh, so I would think InsurTech growth is very well poised in Asia. However, that opportunity has to be grabbed, right? So it cannot be like a hit and miss kind of a thing. So it has to be thought through. The job that we are doing for the customer has to be thought through within the challenges that also gets bogged down in Asia, like language challenges, cultural challenges, regulatory challenges. With all of that, if I think the InsurTech world would identify specifics as to, okay, we will do this, and not this and this and this, then life becomes so much easier and the execution is so much sharper. rather than everybody trying to be everything for everybody, you see. So that then becomes very complicated. So I personally get extremely uncomfortable when somebody says, "Oh, we've got a solution that will work in all your markets." Now, that in itself, as a statement, is a red flag that the complexity of Asia is not understood. So overall, huge growth opportunities, heterogeneous set of customers for sure, its own challenges. But once the specific insurtech, silos, they figure out where do they want to work and play, I think then they can crack the code.
Thank you so much, Sonali. I think we really appreciate your time for sharing with us, your insights as well. Is there any last words you would like to say to our audience who are watching this little conversation that we're having? We actually do plan to have a couple more of these as well. So you are one of the first who will be joining us, and we thank you so much for your time as well.
Thank you for having me, Trisha, again. And I'm glad that I got off the bat first. Hopefully, the later speakers would also kind of carry on the conversational approach that you've set forth. I think in terms of last words, I would just want to put it out there that while insurance is one of the last industries to get started, I think the potential is immense, and those of us who are involved from the word go, I think are hugely excited about what lies ahead in terms of partnerships, in terms of customer engagement, customer activation, making solutions achievable and accessible to our customers in various markets in Asia. I think overall tremendous opportunity, a lot of excitement, and this industry has is it probably has the opportunity of learning from previous failures and then making sure we don't make that mistake. So overall, I think the next 10 years guarantee a lot of excitement for insurance and both traditional insurers and for insurtech companies. So looking forward to engaging with a lot of our audiences in future. And thank you once again for having me, Trisha. Really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Sonali.